Hi guys, Peter here from an OK Star Wars podcast. If you don't know or hadn't worked it out, this podcast is recorded online using online voice chat because I live in the UK and my co-host Ben lives in the US. We normally record individually, but at the same time I record on OBS, a master recording, in case we need to sync it up or also as a backup. For whatever reason, the OBS recording didn't record any audio other than mine, so I have two lots of my own audio and no lot of the other audio. For the first 10 minutes, there's a couple of issues. We've brought in a very professional actor who will be improving the things that are missing for the first 10 minutes, and then from there it should be a normal podcast experience. Okay. Here comes the episode. Enjoy. Hi guys, welcome back to yet another episode of we called it an OK Star Wars podcast, didn't we?
Yes, that was your idea.
Yeah, it's not a concrete name. It might be. We might just never bother to change it. But yeah, we're back.
It's a work in
We're doing
progress.
another one of these. Yeah, we're doing Attack of the Clones, and
Yeah.
So I'm Peter. We've got Ben.
I'm Ben.
For Attack of the Clones, we brought in someone extra. Hello there. My name is Jason. I'm some random homeless guy they found on the street and promised me a sandwich if I would talk about Star Wars for an hour.
Yeah, just an hour, then you get it.
Alright. Fucking Attack of the Clones.
It's, it ain't good, folks.
Yeah, I need to drink through this.
I couldn't tell which one that was. I guess it was PB.
Yeah, that was me. So, Attack of the Clones, Episode 2 of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Second one chronologically as well. And Episode 2 picks up, 10 years later after Episode 1?
Yes, it is 10 years later. That is explicitly said.
And this film is... it begins with an opening crawl, which...
Yes, tell us about the opening crawl. You mentioned it had some funny stuff in though.
So the opening crawl confuses the fuck out of me, because it says there is unrest in the Galactic Senate. Several thousand solar systems have declared their intentions to leave the Republic. The Separatist movement is being led by Count Dooku, an ex-Jedi, and the limited number of Jedi Knights struggle to maintain peace and order in the galaxy. Senator Amidala, previously Queen Amidala, from Naboo, is returning to the Galactic Senate to vote on the critical issue of creating an army of the Republic to assist the overwhelmed Jedi. What are the Jedi what problems are the Jedi facing? In what way is the galaxy in turmoil? Why does the Republic not have an army anymore? I mean, let's just ignore Expanded Universe while talking about these movies, but traditionally in Expanded Universe, they did have an army. Do they not have an army? Why do they not? It's just...
I think it's heavily implied throughout this movie that the Jedi have been the peacekeeping sort of arm of the Republic for a while now. As to the problems that the Jedi are having, it's mentioned later on in the film, in a conversation between Yoda and Mace Windu, that their insight is not as powerful as it used to be. So that could be the pall of the dark side is falling over them, and it's making it hard to it's making it harder to use the Force and have insight as to where problems might be.
Yes, when it's convenient for the plot.
Yeah.
But I think a really crucial thing, we'll get to this much, much later in this episode, but apparently there's a limited number of Jedi. This is a very important part of the crawl to me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so it does the whole thing where it pans down from space, because, the opening crawl's in space, and it pans down, and...
It's actually not a bad shot.
No, it's not a bad shot at all. I mean, some of the CGI in this film looks really, really great. What doesn't look great in this film with CGI is the integration of CGI in live action. It looks worse to me than Phantom Menace. But it's Queen Amidala's arriving on Coruscant. She gets off the ship blows up, she dies, but actually it's not Queen Amidala, it's her decoy, because she's still doing that.
This scene is actually really fucking funny to me. The scene just beforehand is the ship going through a very misty Coruscant, which is a pretty cool scene. The CGI looks good, possibly helped by the mist, but it's kind of cool. It's a good contrast to the scenes in Phantom Menace where it's all clear and, all that shit. There's actually a lot of really good Coruscant footage in this movie. Possibly the only good thing that, I could say about the early parts of the film. As they're getting off the ship, what's his name? Captain Tanaka?
Yeah, it's not Captain Panaka from Phantom Menace. It's someone else. I can't remember this dude's name.
So they get off the ship, and he's like, he basically turns to Natalie Portman, and he's like, I guess there really was no danger. And literally, 2 seconds later, the ship fucking explodes.
Goodbye, Keira Knightley. Boom.
Was it supposed to be same decoy from Phantom Menace? That's a fucking shit job.
Yeah, that's bad.
I'd imagine in real life, and I assume some politicians occasionally use decoys or whatever, or maybe Melania Trump is sometimes a decoy, who knows? But presumably, you're not in that for the long haul. You're doing a year, 2 years tour of a decoy. You get a fat paycheck and then you leave, right? Mm-hmm. You're not doing that for 10 years.
That's hazard pay out the fucking
exactly,
ass, man.
Yeah. Anyways,
so
just clone her.
well,
we'll figure out cloning in a little bit here. Just
cloning, as it turns out,
really funny.
Really important later on in the saga as well.
Actually, quite important. It's just a really funny line reading from her bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
Seconds before the ship explodes. This is the first of many unintentionally hilarious moments in this film. We'll get to those.
Yeah. So she nearly dies, but she doesn't die because she's still using decoys. It's later on revealed that it's Newt Gunray trying to get revenge on Padme after 10 years, but it's totally actually Palpatine trying to stop her from voting against the building of an army or whatever. But it's just Jango Fett tried to blow up the ship. It didn't work, so he plans another assassination attempt. In the meantime,
through another assassin by proxy. Zam fucks up in the beginning.
Yeah. We'll get to there, but first of all, they bring in 2 Jedi, a Jedi Knight and his Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, and the introduction is one of the fucking weirdest introductions to a hero character ever.
So weird.
I know that technically we've been introduced to these characters in the last film, but first of all, Anakin is 10 years older, played by a different actor. I feel like he needs a fresh introduction. But also, if you think about how most of the trilogies work, most of the films work, because also there's Solo, which has Han Solo, who you've met before, but you're meeting him again. They introduce it to you like you're an audience member coming in for the first time. Even Revenge of the Sith does this. Attack of the Clones just starts with them in an elevator talking about how great pals they are and what great adventures they go on.
Oh God!
It's so
it's such a weird dynamic between them. It straddles the line between rivalry and really accurate rivalry too.
Well,
not a friendly one.
Well, they're brothers.
Them being master and apprentice.
They're trying to kind of portray it also as a father-son sort of thing, but it's weird.
Yeah, it kind of goes all over the place in my opinion.
This is something that the show, Clone Wars the show, does fucking fantastically. But this is the age-old rule in filmmaking is show, don't tell, and this is all tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And bad tell.
That nest of gun ducks.
Yeah. It should be mentioned that you forced yourself through this movie again recently, didn't you?
Yes. Less than a week ago, I watched it again.
When was the last time you watched it, Jason?
Hell, I don't know. Probably when I was 12 years old.
Fucking hell.
When my middle school math teacher told me it was fun.
Was that? What was his name?
What did you do to offend your middle school maths teacher? Why did he hate you?
She seemed to like Star Wars and thought it looked good. It seemed like she mainly go there for the visual effects. And I guess that was the big draw of the new Star Wars movie at the time because CGI was just getting big in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think your teacher was just a full-blown sadist. That was fucked up.
Very fucked up.
My English teacher introduced me to D&D, so, that's a
Damn.
good teacher.
My English teacher let me read a lot of Timothy Zahn in his classroom, which was super cool. That got me into the Thrawn trilogy and a lot of the expanded universe stuff.
But, yeah, we're told about how great Anakin and Obi-Wan are, but then the very next scene does so much work to undo this, because there's an awkward, and it's quite... At first, it's a quite well done, awkward reintroduction of Anakin and Padme. They haven't seen each other in 10 years. Anakin, as a little 9-year-old, had a fucking horny time trying to get into Padme's pants. And they haven't seen each other for 10 years, and now he's even more horny. He's so horny in this film.
He is supremely horny in this movie. It is, very bad.
But it's because he's 19 and they get, their feelings suppressed, I guess. But then, every single time that Obi-Wan is being a rational, normal Jedi, we should try and protect you. And Anakin's we need to investigate who's trying to kill you. And Obi-Wan's no, our job is to protect you. Well, finding the killer is part of the and it's just he's screaming at his master and just making himself look like a douche.
Yeah, they're arguing constantly in this first scene together with Padme.
Which
Padme
the whole time
is
is
extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it should be noted the whole time Obi-Wan is in the right. Not only is Obi-Wan the master and therefore should be the default person in charge, but also he's just in the right. And he's so just chill and checked out at this point. He's fucking Anakin again.
Should be noted, Jar Jar's also in the scene. He's pretty decked out in regalia. He's doing pretty well for himself.
Is he a senator himself, or is he just a
he is not,
subbed-in
no.
senator?
That comes later.
Okay. But they decide to. Well, they don't decide to. They're ordered to guard Padme and make sure that she's safe and try and thwart any further assassination attempts. They have a conversation while she's sleeping about them sensing stuff, and Obi-Wan's your senses are clouded, you're still young, but Anakin's no, I sense something. I can sense her in that room, I can sense everything. And then as this is happening, this droid delivers some bugs. So not only is Jango using Zam to kill Padme, but then Zam's using a droid with bugs in it.
Great food delivery.
Yeah, the assassin rooms are actually pretty cool looking.
It's pretty
the way
cool.
they go into the Padme suite, pretty cool. Them slithering around, pretty good CGI. I just wanted to mention real quick, one of the lines Anakin says while this is being set up. I don't think she liked me watching her on the cameras.
Christ, I forgot that.
So, one of the first of many extremely weird and off-putting things Anakin says about Padme in this film. Anyway.
The thing is, you could say that in a normal way and not be a creep. I don't think she likes the fact that we've got to keep an eye on her. Normal.
I don't think she'd like me watching.
Just very, very, very cool and normal.
So Anakin senses the bugs in the room that are going to poison Padme. Obi-Wan's I sense it too, and they both run in. Anakin fucking... I guess that he's a Jedi and he has the Force and whatever, but he jumps onto Padme's bed and just lightsaber chops up these bugs while she's still somewhat half awake, half asleep in the bed. She wakes up to someone jumping onto her bed with a lightsaber on. Pretty terrifying way to wake up.
Yeah. And swiping his lightsaber very dangerously fucking close to her.
Yeah.
On one hand, it kind of shows how skilled Anakin is. On the other hand, dangerously fucking psychotic.
Mm-hmm. But and then Obi-Wan spots the droid. Now, this whole film, this whole trilogy really, sets up the idea that Obi-Wan is the calm and rational one, and Anakin is the brash, showy-offy one who takes great risks and also wants to get in bed with Padme. So guess which one jumps out the window and grabs hold of the droid which is hovering literally thousands of meters above death, the ground.
If you guessed Obi-Wan, you guessed correctly.
Yeah, Obi-Wan just yeets himself out of the window and grabs hold of this droid, and Anakin decides to go and get a speeder car and chase him. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't work in police or bodyguarding, but my guess would be if there had just been an assassination attempt on my charge, I probably wouldn't.
Someone should probably stick with him.
And if the Jedi have decided that this assassination attempt is a big enough deal to send Jedi, should probably be a Jedi. You could send not Captain Panaka to go and chase Obi-Wan down. But no, Anakin does it, which I guess fits with Anakin's character, but like it doesn't fit with Jango Fett's character. Why Jango Fett doesn't then just assassinate Padme? Because Jango Fett apparently instead wants to go and prepare to assassinate Zam Wesell instead.
Yeah, he knows she fucked up, so he, it's a changeling, so it doesn't really matter.
The chase sequence pretty good.
Pretty good. It's very, like, it shows off Coruscant at night. There's a lot of good CGI, and it's kind of hard to tell that it's CGI.
Again, the music and the sound effects are pretty great during it.
Yep.
There's some
sound effects are not quite as good as in Phantom Menace, in my opinion, but still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as memorable, but I can vaguely picture, like, audio picture the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And and also this is where it almost would have been better to start the movie halfway through this second assassination attempt on Padme. Have it be in the opening crawl that Padme has had assassination attempts on her and they've sent the Jedi. I know it means that you wouldn't get to see Anakin and Padme meeting again for the first time, but that was badly done anyways. And this way you get to see the banter that these two characters have right off the bat, and it works really, really well.
It's good banter.
Scene.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good banter. It does a good job of setting up their actual relationship, which is, again, it's a lot more of a playful rivalry in this scene, rather than this, like, accurate fucking, like, sniping at each other kind of thing.
Like, at one point, Obi-Wan loses grip of the droid, and then he's falling for ages, and Anakin eventually manages to catch him, and Obi-Wan's like, what took you so long? And then Anakin decides to jump off the speeder car to grab hold of Zam's speeder car.
Yeah, not one to be outdone in suicidal tendencies. Anakin does the same fucking thing.
Yeah, and Obi-Wan's like, I think, does he say... I'm either getting this mixed with a quote...
I hate it. He says, I hate it when he does that.
Okay, I was thinking he says always on the move, but I think that's from Revenge of the Sith, isn't it? I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
He says, yeah. And then Anakin loses his lightsaber, Obi-Wan catches it, which then has another cool playful moment later on where Obi-Wan says, this is your weapon. He's both berating
this
Anakin.
Weapon is your life.
Yeah, he's like being an actual teacher, but also still doing that playful rivalry thing, which works really, really well. But anyways, Zam's car crashes, she gets off on foot, Anakin chases her, and now we're on the streets of Coruscant, like the floor level, which again is really cool to see. It's a different dynamic of Coruscant than what we saw in the first movie, and they go into a canteen and we have a little bit of fun with the Star Wars canteen.
It's a bit of a nightclub.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a nightclub. There's no jizz playing. I forget what's playing in this film, in this scene, rather.
It's not memorable.
It's not memorable at all, no. What is memorable is Sleazebag Gatto.
Who? Oh,
Sleazebag
the death
Gatto.
stick guy. Yeah.
The drug dealer who wants to sell
buy
some death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
It seems that everyone could tell who's a Jedi in the prequels, but that guy could not tell right off the bat.
Okay, so that actually brings up another thing. During the chase, while Obi-Wan is floating around on this fucking droid, screaming at the top of his lungs, presumably, it's kind of like bobbing and weaving through traffic. And at one point, it comes up to an alien who's just, going along his way, stuck in traffic. Obi-Wan goes screaming fucking past, and the alien goes, Jedi Poodoo. And I'm like, is this just something Jedi do? Like, you see a guy doing that, and you're like, oh, fucking Jedi are at it again, here we go.
Yeah, that must be it, honestly. Also, another thing that I think is worth noting, so in the original trilogy, Obi-Wan and Luke wear this the type of clothing they wear because they're hermits in the desert, and Yoda kind of wears something similar in Empire.
Because he's a little fucking homeless gremlin in a swamp, so whatever.
Hey.
But in the prequel trilogy, that's what all the Jedi wear, is basically what Luke wears in A New Hope, which is kind of weird. This is the first time, we see a couple people wear brown rather than beige, but this is the first character we see wearing black, is Anakin. It's because he's going to fall to the dark side.
He's edgy.
Did you know he's going to fall to the dark side?
He's edgy, guys.
And he wears leather as well, yes.
Yes.
But yeah, so they in the nightclub, there's some fun. There's some things that will be memed forever now. And then at one point, Zam tries to shoot Obi-Wan, and he chops off her arm, which again is a cool little nod to Obi-Wan in A New Hope. Yeah. They drag her outside, and Anakin's like, "Hey, it's Jedi business," and everyone just goes back to drinking because apparently, again, this sort of shit just happens on a daily basis in Coruscant. But the Jedi are few in number, so. And then as they're interrogating her, Jango Fett decides to assassinate her.
Shoots her with a toxic dart.
Yeah.
He was mentoring her. She fucked up, so he had to take her out.
Yeah.
Here's a question, guys. If you're a Mandalorian / according to George Lucas, not Mandalorian, bounty hunter from a planet Kamino, which you probably hopefully know has been like removed off the archives, like it's a hidden planet, and you're either way you're a bounty hunter who keeps his identity very hush hush and whatever. What
kind of weapon would you use?
Yeah, would you use like a generic weapon which they're gonna see you anyways because you're using a fucking jetpack and the Jedi? Would you use a generic weapon that would kill her, or like a unique weapon that they could track?
A very distinctive thing. Yeah. If you guessed the very distinctive weapon, then good job. You're as good of a bounty hunter as Jango Fett.
Yep. To be fair, I'm not going to get too annoyed with Jango Fett being a crap bounty hunter, because it goes in line with Boba Fett being a crap bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Literally, the first live-action efficient Mandalorian bounty hunter we've ever seen is The Mandalorian in the TV show The Mandalorian. And even he is not that good, but he's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, so Jango flies away. Then I can't really remember what the next progression of scenes is, but basically Obi-Wan's charged with investigating what's going on, right?
Yeah, it's a Jedi Temple scene. Yoda is telling Anakin to be Padme's escort, which I found was very odd, because later on in the film, after Anakin kills all the fucking Tusken Raiders, there's a very, obvious scene where Yoda's like, "Ooh, something terrible has happened," and I'm like, well, this implies that Yoda has very good insight into what Anakin is doing and the Chosen One and all.
But also,
how doesn't he?
Also, the dark side is clouding his vision.
Yeah, the dark side's clouding his vision,
Sometimes.
but he can see all this shit. Sometimes when it's convenient
for the plot,
it's clouding his vision. So how doesn't Yoda know that sending Anakin off of Padme on a romantic fucking getaway is the worst idea possible?
Also, how fucking important is Padme? Is she important or is she not important? Is she important enough? Then send a fucking... What are the Jedi Masters doing? They're all just sat around in a fucking circle room.
Yeah.
Send fucking Mace Windu. He's not doing shit.
Send Mace Windu. Yeah. Give Samuel L. Jackson some more fucking lines.
Why are you sending the fucking Padawan?
Who's extremely horny.
And extremely reckless.
The only one in the entire movie with a sex drive.
Right, but it's because the Jedi have a shortage. There's very few Jedi in the galaxy.
So, there's more Jedi Temple shit. It's very CGI looking. It looks kind of neat. It gives you a good scale and sense of...
If you rewind back to whenever this film came out, I feel like it was 2002, I want to say. 2001, maybe. If you rewind back to then, it looked pretty good. Nowadays, not so much. There's things like characters walking around and they've got CGI shadows underneath them because the floor underneath them is CGI and that sort of thing. So there's definitely...
It's all green screen.
Yeah. I think probably the most egregious bad CGI stitching with live action for me is there is a sequence later on when they get to Kamino where Obi-Wan is running down this walkway in the rain, and you can clearly see when he reaches the CGI bit where there was no rain because it's CGI versus the live action stuff where they clearly had actual water on set pouring down on him. And you can just, if you look for it, you can see the line where it ends. And it's just, yeah. But,
yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, so Obi-Wan is investigating. Anakin is sent off with Padme to Naboo for the B-plot.
Yeah, this forms the two concurrent plots of the movie, which is Obi-Wan's investigation and Anakin falling in... Well, he's already very in love with Padme, but them falling in love with each other.
Sort of. I'd say it's more kind of him coercing her into loving her, or him even.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But
there's also a part where Padme, just before this, she gives Jar Jar her place in the Senate.
Yeah.
For the extremely important opposition vote.
I think it's also worth noting that you mentioned earlier that there wasn't a lot to compliment in the early part of this film. I would actually argue that the Obi-Wan investigation from this point on is fairly enjoyable. I would actually...
Yeah, it's definitely more enjoyable than the other part.
Yeah, and it's not even that awful. I think the whole him looking into it and unraveling that mystery is quite fun. It's just that it goes nowhere, which completely undoes it.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan investigates the Camoan dart. There's a deleted scene where he actually gets it like checked by the Jedi Temple droids, and they don't recognize it. So then he takes it to a cafe ran by his good friend Dexter Jettster,
Dex.
who is...
He takes it to an old-timey American diner where there's a droid dressed up like a waitress you'd see in like an old 50s diner.
Because
it is...
they can't be accused of having racial stereotypes if they also do their own racial stereotype.
Yeah, exactly. It is the most jarring fucking mess of a scene I've ever fucking seen.
But Dexter Jettster is also the best character in the Star Wars franchise until Babu Frick, so... just saying facts here. Yeah, and he instantly recognizes it as one of them Camoan darts. While pulling up his trousers because he keeps on showing his ass crack to the camera.
Yeah, we love that.
World traveled diner honor.
It's never explained how he knows what Kamino is or what a Camoan dart is, because no one else knows.
Also,
the Jedi don't fucking know.
It's also never explained how P and Obi-Wan know each other, but that's fine.
I imagine that when you're about 16 in the Jedi Order, you have to do work experience, and Dexter Jettster was his boss for work experience.
They said Obi-Wan would go walk in the fucking old 50s title.
That fits, I think, with his character.
Now imagine him with a chef hat.
I'm picturing his uniform being very similar to Steve's from Stranger Things Season 3.
Yeah. Shit, what's it called? Chips Ahoy.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Scoops Ahoy.
Scoops Ahoy, that's it. So then he goes to the Jedi Archives, and he's looking for Kamino, and the lady who runs the Jedi Archives is like, if it's not in the archives, it doesn't exist. Which, again, we'll probably do an episode of the Jedi at some point. This is why the Jedi fucking suck in this era.
Yeah, they're just, very lazy and arrogant and just overall kind of shitty.
Yeah. So then he takes it to Yoda's class, and Yoda's teaching a bunch of younglings. And Yoda clearly has the answer, but he lets one of the kids give the answer, which I think is a cute scene. And one of the kids is like, well, just go to where it says it should be, and you'll either find a planet there, or you won't. And everyone's like, shit, this fucking kid.
Shit, you're right.
I never thought of that. You're telling me that these exact coordinates I have for this planet, even though there's not a planet there on my map, if I just go there...
If I just go there, I might find something?
There might be a planet there.
That kid's gonna grow up to be a great Jedi.
He's not, though, because of what happens in the next film.
Fucker, that was a joke!
It's kind of funny how Yoda roasts Obi-Wan.
Unless he's like one of the... like maybe he's Kanan Jarrus. Maybe that's like live-action Kanan Jarrus.
Yeah, there you go. It's pretty funny how Yoda roasts Obi-Wan in this scene. He's like, Obi-Wan seems to be missing a planet. What a fool. What a dipshit.
Do you think, like, Yoda, like, texted Obi-Wan and was like, I can't fucking teach these fucking kids. Please help me out. Give me something to entertain me.
Kids streaking constantly, they are.
Yeah, and at least though we get to see as well, like, a Jedi Master actually doing something. Like, we see what the Jedi might be doing on a day-to-day basis is, Yoda's teaching the younglings. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Real quick, I think we should stop in with Anakin and Padme. So they've taken R2-D2. They're flirting a little bit on... and when I say flirting, I mean Anakin's being edgy and going, my life's terrible. I don't like flying, or whatever he says when he's on the way to Naboo.
I don't like fucking Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is, the root of all evil.
But also, I'm honored for him to be my mentor. He's powerful like Master Yoda, and as good a fighter as Mace Windu or whatever he says.
And it's all his fault.
And it's all his fault. And then they get to Naboo, and there's some little cute scenes where it's like talking about Padme being elected so young and that sort of thing. And I feel these scenes are where you see that these two have a modicum of chemistry. Not so much with the creepy romantic stuff, but just talking like normal human beings. Yeah. You're like, oh, wow, you two actually sound like human beings. And there's I've seen some deleted scenes from this one. There's some deleted scenes where Anakin meets Padme's family. And again, that's kind of works and it's kind of cute. But it's cut out of the movie for surfing on the back of weird CGI cows and stuff.
Yeah. Rolling around, definitely, fucking very bad.
Walking through an actual field.
Early on, when they arrive at Naboo, loads of people keep on referring to Anakin as a Master Jedi, and Padme just keeps on going, well, he's not a Master yet. He's a Padawan. he's still in training. He's not a proper Jedi yet.
He ain't shit, kid.
Yeah, she's just like negging him. Yeah, it's what's it called when you like insult someone? Yeah.
She's just negging the shit out of him.
But yeah, they start to chat and talk about like Anakin doesn't like senators, but then Padme's like, well, I'm a senator.
Oh yeah, Anakin in these scenes, Anakin is really like showing off his fucking fascism boner. Like, he's talking about how dictatorships are actually cool and good. Because again, he fucking turns to the dark side. He's gonna turn to the dark side, guys.
He's the proudest boy.
At one point he does the beautiful, famous.
I don't like sand.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere. Not like here, where everything's soft. As he starts to stroke Padme's arm.
Yeah, they kiss in the scene. And then Padme's like, I shouldn't have done that.
Also, John Williams, as we mentioned in the last episode, is on point always in these films, and this is probably John Williams' best musical moment, is the rising music as they're swelling up as they kiss, and then as soon as she pulls away, it basically just stops. It's like a fucking record scratch. It's beautiful. Yeah. I like that shit.
I was wasted on that.
Yeah. And,
it's a shame.
And then they also have the like him feeding her pears.
Oh God.
You have a scene where she's in like this incredibly like
revealing fucking outfit. They're sitting on a couch and she's wearing like fuck me dress.
The cleavage is real.
Yeah, and there's like a fire in the corner, so it's dark, but there's the warmth. And he's like, please, if you are suffering as much as I am,
so
let
painful.
me know. Which, I guess that's just him telling her that the Jedi are forced to wear chastity belts, I'm guessing.
It's something real like that.
Yeah. Let's get back to Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan's the good part of this movie at the moment. Yep. So Obi-Wan gets to Kamino. Holy shit, there was a planet there. And again, this is pretty cool.
Wow.
It's pretty atmospheric when he's arriving at Kamino, which appears to be like this ocean planet where it's constantly a storm. And he lands, and he goes and he meets the Kamoans, who basically tell him, hey, this is a cloning facility that we run where we clone people. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. Why are you telling me all this?
Yeah, the Kaminoans are basically dipshits. No one verifies who Obi-Wan is. They just kind of assume that since he's here...
He's wearing a Jedi robe.
He's wearing a Jedi robe, but they're like, okay, he must be in on the plot.
And everyone knows what Jedi look like, because there are so few Jedi in the galaxy.
To be fair, apparently the Kaminoans were dealing with a Jedi who put in the order for the clones.
Yes, which is what is revealed by the president of the Kamoans is, we are building this army for you from Master Cypher Diaz. And then Obi-Wan's like, Master Cypher Diaz? And then later on...
dead for 10 years.
Yeah, later on he reveals that he's been dead for 10 years. Never fucking brought up again.
Investigated, not anything.
Apparently, in early drafts of Revenge of the Sith, it was going to be in there, but the film was too bloated, which is fair enough, I guess. But then plan your fucking movies out, which is a criticism we'll have for other trilogies of this franchise as well. Yeah, this feels like probably the most important thing in the whole trilogy, and it is completely dropped. Apparently, rumor has it.
Plot. Yeah, go on.
Rumor has it it's going to appear in this season of Clone Wars, like revealing all of Master. A bit of it was revealed in, I think, season 5, I want to say. But apparently, like, the Master Cypher DS legacy, rumor has it, will play a big part in this season, which makes sense because it's leading up to Order 66. But yeah. It's not good enough to. I'm not criticizing the show at all, but it's not good enough to relegate these sorts of things to the animated TV show that is still making its final season, like 15 years after, well, more than 15 years after this film comes out.
Yeah. Then there's the scene with the clone army where he gets escorted around, the cloning facilities, and you see all the Jango Fett's running around, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, again, this stuff is pretty. As you said, pretty cool. The armor is very reminiscent of Stormtroopers, and you're like, I'm seeing where this is going.
Yep.
It's also worth mentioning that, like, if you have watched the original trilogy going into this, you know that Obi-Wan refers to the Clone Wars as being like this big war that he and Anakin fought in. So the fact that there is a clone army, you're like, oh shit, and the film's called Attack of the Clones, you're like, oh, this is this.
This is the Clone Wars.
Yeah. So then he meets Jango Fett. He knocks on the door and he meets Boba Fett, who is Jango Fett's cloned child. So basically, all the other clones have like quickened like growth periods, like they grow up much faster. Yep. But Boba Fett has a normal growth cycle, so he will grow like a normal human being. He's not technically Jango's son; he is his clone, but basically he's his son.
Mm-hmm. And basically the same character.
He does call him Dad, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Okay,
I believe
yeah.
So.
And then, yeah, Boba Fett lets Obi-Wan into the room. He starts talking to Jango Fett, and then Jango Fett, who's like clearly just like gotten out of the bathroom or whatever, during his conversation, just like notices that he's got his closet open with his fucking Jango Fett armor
just
there,
like Will.
And he just like looks at Boba like, fucking close it, and Obi-Wan 100% sees it. It's like worst bounty hunter ever.
Yeah, Obi-Wan's not very good at the scene either, though.
No.
He's like, he basically tips Jango off that he's onto him. He's very obvious about it. Like, have you been on Coruscant recently? Like, how recently? Like, would you say it within the last 2 days?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, both of them fucking shit at their job. Then Obi-Wan, I think he reports back first, and then he chases Jango.
Yeah. He reports back, and then the Jedi Council tells him to apprehend Jango.
Yeah. Also, they don't really seem to care that much about the fact that apparently a clone army has been made in their name by a Jedi who's been dead for 10 years. That's just... Anyways, he chases Jango. They get into an okay little fight with some slightly slapsticky moments.
Bad CGI explosions.
Yeah. In particular, I'm thinking when it comes to slapstick, when Obi-Wan gets his hands like tied together and then he just gets like dragged along by Jango on his jetpack, which, it's fine. I'm not saying it's bad that it's slapstick, but it is very slapstick.
Yeah.
And then they get, Obi-Wan manages to get a tracker on Jango Fett's ship. Then there's a pretty cool chase sequence between them in space in an asteroid field. And again, I think the sound design here is actually really quite cool.
Yes, the sound design is very good. Before the scene, though, Padme and Anakin are off to Tatooine.
Yes.
I think Anakin has a dream about his mom.
Yeah, he has a nightmare about his mom.
He has a dream about his mom dying.
So he's all up in a fucking tizzy about this, and he's like, we gotta go to Tatooine, my mom's in danger, and blah, 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 blah. And Padme's like, okay, I'm coming with you. And Anakin's like, sure, fine, whatever. So they go to Tatooine, they meet Watto again.
Little Annie.
Little Annie. Watto immediately tries to coerce Anakin into helping him with some fucking mob work. Anakin's like, no, I'm not into that. But I need to know where my mom is. And Watto sold his mother to what is it? Fucking
Lars
the father
Senior.
of Lars Senior, Emperor and fucking Uncle Owen. Their dad.
Yeah.
Cliegg Lars.
That's it.
Yep.
How do you fucking know that?
Jason fucking loves Star Wars.
No, I don't.
Star Wars is okay, I guess.
After this scene, we get back to Jango and Obi-Wan. They go to Geonosis. There's a very cool scene where they're flying through space, through the planetary ring, which is full of asteroids. Jango uses these pretty cool seismic charges, very cool sound design.
And also, I think the
CGI.
design idea that Obi-Wan manages to pretend to blow up again was really, really cool. When I was watching this before Christmas, though, I totally I remembered that he did that, but I misremembered how, because I had a toy of that ship where the wings came off, and I was waiting for the wings to come off, and I was like, oh, that toy was just inaccurate, I guess.
So lie.
Can't believe they lied to you.
Yeah. And then, they get to Geonosis, which, again, design-wise, I really like Geonosis. I really like the Geonosians. I think this is a really cool idea. And Obi-Wan does a bit of sleuthing. I think around about this time, we're kind of cutting back between this and Tatooine.
Peter, can I pause
you
real quick for a sec? When you're talking about Geonosis, a little background is supposed to be doused with radiation, like the whole planet. That's why the Geonosians live underground in the first place. And Obi-Wan just walking around the surface like it's nothing.
Yeah, that's not really a thing in this film. Like, it's just generic desert craggy planet.
It's fine. The lore of Star Wars is not consistent.
No. So, just before we get to Obi-Wan landing on Geonosis, we have more Tatooine stuff. They go to the Law's homestead,
which is the place
C-3...
from A New Hope.
Yeah, that's where they die. We've got C-3PO. He's back, baby.
He's silver now.
He's silver.
Or greyish silver, I guess.
Yeah, he's seen better days.
He's seen worse days. I'd say him being naked in Phantom Menace was worse.
Yeah, he didn't have much of a presence in that movie, though. He has a lot more of a presence in this movie. Like, we're back to fucking R2 and C-3PO shenanigans, but that comes later. So we've got Anakin. He's asking about his mom. Mom's been kidnapped by Tusken Raiders. There's no blue milk in the scene, but there's some later.
Is there actually?
Yeah. After the whole slaughter thing, Padme comes in on Anakin, and she's got, like, blue milk.
For fuck's sake. Okay, so he meets, what's his name, Lars, whatever you said earlier, Jason?
Yeah,
Klieg Lars, who reveals that he did indeed buy Shmi as a slave, but then they fell in love, and he freed her, and then married her, which totally sounds legitimate, and not at all, like, sort of manipulation and
coercion
sort
of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely consensual.
It's totally fine.
But apparently she got kidnapped by Tusken Raiders, so Anakin grabs a swoop bike and he goes off looking for the Tusken Raiders. Again, the montage scene of him looking for the Tusken Raiders, really cool. I really like the music there. The cinematography is cool and the CGI looks good. He arrives at the Tusken Raider camp, where he manages to sneak in and find his mum just in time for her to basically die in his arms. Like, she's conscious, but she's like, her getting to see Anakin again is like her, I guess, coming to peace with, like, she's been hanging on to life. And again, like, we talked about how, like, the emotional beat of Qui-Gon dying was really, really good in Phantom Menace. I think this is a really good emotional beat. This works really, really well for me.
It didn't work so well for me.
Okay.
I thought the dialogue was good. The way Shmi just kind of like flops over and dies is kind of morbidly hilarious.
Yeah, but you know, she's lost the will to live.
She lost the will to live, and that's a legitimate cause of death in Star Wars.
In Star Wars, yeah.
So she just kind of flops over very amusingly, and then Anakin is super fucking pissed. He gets his lightsaber out and he goes to fucking town on these Tusken Raiders.
I slaughtered them like animals. The women and the children too.
Not just the men, but the women and the children too.
Which, you know, Tusken Raiders, there's not a huge amount of lore for them in the movies. There's a lot more in other stuff, but they're still somewhat civilized. They're not animals. They are. I mean, they're the equivalent. Yeah, they're the equivalent of like American Indians or Aboriginals or any other just native people living by the land, essentially.
And Anakin does a colonialism and he kills them all.
Including the children.
There's supposed to be a slight turn to the dark side thing, but the Tusken Rangers are just so wholly unsympathetic. You kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, they're kind of assholes. They're never portrayed in like a sympathetic. I think KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic 1, is like the first time they're actually portrayed in a somewhat sympathetic light.
There is, I don't remember what came first, KOTOR or the comic series, but there was a comic series which featured a Jedi who was also a Tusken Raider as well, and he and Anakin did not get on well. And if you've read Star Wars Legacies, Darth Krayt is the same character.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Something said with some weird edgy name.
Because
so
it's called Darth
interspersed
Krayt
with
after the Krayt Dragon. Get it? It's...
yeah, okay, that makes sense. So interspersed with these scenes is Obi-Wan investigating Geonosis. This is the first scene where we see Christopher Lee as Count Dooku.
And he instantly just wins the movie.
Yep, he's pretty much the only good actor in this film. Like, Ewan McGregor's fine.
Samuel L. Jackson's fine.
Yeah, but it's all kind of wooden. Christopher Lee's having fun with it.
Yeah. He's doing it very kind of almost Shakespearean. It's over the top. Obi-Wan's sneaking through the base and he overhears the conversation and then basically immediately gets caught. And then there's quite a cool scene where he's like strung up and being not even interrogated, just talked to by Count Dooku. And Count Dooku, it turns out, is Qui-Gon's old master. So it's almost like Obi-Wan's the equivalent of a grandson in terms of like Jedi hierarchy. Yeah. He's Count Dooku's apprentice's apprentice. And that's cool. I wish they'd played more with that dynamic ever.
Count Dooku even comes off as like kind of sympathetic in the scene, like his
totally genteel.
Yeah, he's very like persuasive, but Obi-Wan's not having any of it.
And also, beyond the assassination attempt, which is not necessarily proven to be a separatist plot, it might just be one person plotting that.
Yeah, it might just be,
The separatists are a completely legal action. Like,
yeah. So here's my big question about this movie.
I'm British. We just went through Brexit. That's basically what we did. We were the separatist party. We didn't choose. Well, a lot of us didn't choose to be the separatist party, but we were, and we are not bad guys much.
Here's my biggest question about this movie. Like, is what the separatists are doing illegal? It seems like it's only illegal because fucking Palpy is like doing both sides, and the Jedi are like,
It can't possibly be illegal because in the Clone Wars TV series, while they're at war with each other, they still appear in the Senate.
Yep.
I think in the movie it's portrayed that they're building arms, the droids and the robots. It's supposed to be the illegal portion.
I don't think that's proven yet. I think that's what they find out during this movie, though.
Yeah. During Geonosis, they find the massive droid army, which they go for the whole factory sequence.
Which we'll get to, because that's skipping ahead a little bit.
Yeah, so they're obviously arming, and I guess you could make the argument that the Jedi sense that the dark side is, like, influencing events.
Yeah. Also, it's worth noting that before he does get captured, Obi-Wan does kind of report that he's arrived at Geonosis, and he has to send a signal. So actually, I think we've gotten out of sync here, because I think before that, Anakin comes home with Shmi's body, and then Padme comforts him, and he says, I'm not all powerful. Or she says, you're not all powerful, and he says, well, I should be, which again is hinting at like that dark side element.
This scene is actually really good.
Hayden Christensen can act.
Yeah, he can act a little bit in this scene. It's still a little weird. John Williams, though, like the Darth Vader theme plays in this scene, and it's actually pretty good.
And Padme comforts him, and then later on, the droids come and tell Padme that there's a message, or they tell Anakin that there's a message. And he goes to the ship, and that's when Obi-Wan is kind of asking him to bounce the signal to Coruscant, because Obi-Wan, for whatever reason, can't get the signal to Coruscant. So Anakin directly receives the message about Obi-Wan being on Geonosis, and witnesses him get captured. So then they pass it on to Coruscant, and Coruscant basically tells them to stay where they are. But Anakin and Padme don't do that because...
Anakin actually wants to stay put, but Padme's like, we're going to go save Obi-Wan.
Which is, again, just basic characterization. Obi-Wan is Anakin's father figure / brother figure. He just lost his literal mum. Doesn't have any interest in saving his father figure.
It's a weird walk back.
It's very, like... in a lot of the scenes on Naboo, like Anakin is clearly not fond of Obi-Wan, and in the scene, in fact, Anakin is bitching at him constantly.
But he's still like, it's supposed to be. Surely it's supposed to be like a teenage son being annoyed at his dad, not I actually fucking hate this person and wish he wasn't my master.
Yeah.
Here's a writing technique for any budding writers out there. Take your character, boil them down to the core traits and defining elements of who they are, and then write around that or incorporate that into your writing.
Characterization, it's cool and good.
Anakin has had a father figure die on him. He now has another father figure who isn't actually that much older than him in the grand scheme of things, and he's brash and arrogant, and so he butts heads with his father figure a lot, but it is his father figure. He doesn't have a mother figure anymore because he left his mum to slavery. He basically has parental issues. Work with that. Don't just have it go. Anyways.
So Padme's all gung-ho to go save Obi-Wan, and, Anakin's like, you stink. Okay, we'll go save him.
So, after Obi-Wan and Count Dooku's conversation, then we get to Anakin and Padme arriving at Geonosis. They go through the droid factory, which again, we have incredibly slapstick comedy of R2-D2 like knocking C-3PO onto the conveyor belt. Anakin loses his lightsaber. It gets like broken in half. And it's just basically like, I don't even know how to describe this scene. I can't.
It's very slapstick. It's kind of a fun scene.
It's okay, but it's very Looney Tunes.
It is very Looney Tunes. There's a lot of like,
whoa! I fell into this thing.
Yeah, there's shit. Oh no, I'm gonna get squished. I gotta go fast, and Anakin's fighting all the fucking Geonosians who float on over. It's a decent action scene.
It's okay. It's hilarious to watch the behind the scenes of it, though.
Yeah, I bet.
But they get captured as well. During this, C-3PO also gets dismantled. His head gets taken off, and his head gets put onto a battle droid body, and his body gets a battle droid head, which I will admit, that's fucking funny. Like, the stuff that happens during the Battle of Geonosis with C-3PO's 2 bits is funny and clever. I enjoyed that.
It's pretty amusing. Before all this, we got out of order again. There's some stuff on Coruscant with the Jedi Council talking about, they get Obi-Wan's message about the clone army and the droid army on Geonosis. And at this point, they're like, maybe we do need an army after all. Like, maybe that clone army on Kamino's actually, like, a good thing.
Totally illegal, but hey, convenient.
But the problem is, Palpatine doesn't have the authority to basically make the transaction. Like, he needs, like, authorization from the Senate to actually, like, go through with it. But the opposition is still very strong. At this point, there's an extremely funny scene where Palpatine and his major domo or whatever, the big blue guy, who's in Revenge of the Sith as well, he says to Palpatine, if only Senator Amidala were here, and, her force of personality, mind you, Padme was the one, like, opposing the army, but they totally play on Jar Jar feeling inadequate compared to Padme, so fucking Jar Jar goes up to the Senate, standing in for Padme, and he's like, Wisa needs to give Palpatine emergency dictator powers so that we can have a huge fucking army, and it works hook, line, and sinker.
To be fair, I feel like that happens in current politics quite a lot. Anyway, it doesn't feel that far-fetched anymore.
Yeah. All the Jedi are cool with the army now, too, because they're like, you know what? Fuck it. There's a giant droid army. Let's get all those clones out there. Fuck it. Let's do it.
So, Anakin and Padme are then being taken out to the arena to be executed, and at this point, they share another kiss because Padme confesses that she's in love with him too, and that if they're going to die, they should die in love. And again, John Williams' love theme, I think it's called Cross the Stars. It's a great piece of music. Like, I genuinely think that that's one of the best, in my opinion, Star Wars musical pieces, even though it's sappy and romantic and I'm callous and hate everything. I like that. They get taken out, and chained to these...
She says she's not afraid to die.
Yes.
She's not afraid to die because she's in love with Anakin. He's such a fucking dreamy hunk.
He is such a dreamy hunk. Have you seen that fucking tan he's got? Oh my god.
His braid, damn.
Oh my god, and he's wearing black leather.
So they're going out to the blood sport so they can be executed in front of thousands of screaming Geonosians.
And Jango Fett
Obi-Wan,
and Count Dooku and a couple of the other separatists.
Yeah. Obi-Wan is already chained up. He roasts Anakin. He's like, I forget what he says exactly.
Anakin says, Obi-Wan says, what are you doing
Got
here?
your
And
message.
Anakin says, came to rescue you. He goes, good job.
Yeah, he says good job.
It's just very sarcastic in this movie.
Yes. Obi-Wan is great in this movie. In terms of like the writing of him, I feel like the Clone Wars TV series really burrows into this sort of just asshole Obi-Wan that he is.
Yeah,
in the prequels.
he's very trickstery.
And he doesn't really get any chance to do that in Phantom Menace because he's really not in Phantom Menace essentially. But yeah, they all get chained up, and then 3 alien monsters come out. There's 2 unimportant ones, and then there's the Nexu, which is like the best alien monster ever. We all know that. That's a fact. Better than Rancors.
Creature design is pretty good, though.
Yeah, the creature design in this is great. Again, this is kind of what we said about Phantom Menace. The designs for much of this film are great. Because the Camoans looked great, in my opinion. They look cool and weird. The super battle droids look good. So, one weird thing, though, actually, later on in either Clone Wars or Rebels, they refer to the fact that droids look like Geonosians, which they kind of do. Were the Geonosians...
Kind of, I guess.
Were the Geonosians making the droids back in Phantom Menace time? Or...
Yeah, I believe they manufacture them and just sell them to the Trade Federation.
The Trade Federation.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
They're going to execute them by monster, but then they all manage to kind of break free. Padme is one of the most efficient of the 3 here.
Yes, she's free before either of the other 2. She's free and she's climbing up a fucking pole. Very efficient.
Because, it was only after the Disney films that they tried putting strong female characters in, and that's why I hate the Disney films. There were no strong female characters before the Disney films, and that's why they were good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's sarcasm, by the way. Please don't hate me and think that I'm a sexist.
Padme got a lot of Spec Ops training in her time as a bureaucrat.
As a senator, yeah.
To be fair, she's efficient in Phantom Menace. When she's fucking 14, she's killing droids. So, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's pretty whatever. It's fine. I'm fond of Padme being efficient and like competent.
And better than Anakin. And then they all managed to break free, and then they kill their respective monsters. And then they're like, okay, well, we'll just execute you by droids then. So they bring out just a shitload of droids to kill these 3. And that's when...
the Jedi show up.
Yeah, so then Mace Windu just like strolls alongside and puts a lightsaber to Count Dooku's...
I think it's Nute Gunray.
He puts his lightsaber to someone's throat and threatens them, and then Jango Fett attacks him, and they have a cool fight where they basically... Mace Windu ends up on the floor of the arena along with... Anakin and Obi-Wan and Padme, and then all the other Jedi show up. Because, there are so few Jedi in the galaxy.
So few Jedi.
But
after this fight, there's a lot less.
Okay, here's what makes me so fucking mad about this film. In The Phantom Menace, you have Naboo straight up invaded by the Trade Federation, who do a hostile takeover. You have the Queen escape, along with her Jedi escort, who can all, under oath, give their statements to the Senate, and the Senate decides to say, fuck you, you're not getting any support from anyone, and the Jedi go, fuck you, you're not getting any support from anyone. So Padme, her couple of Naboo people, and the Jedi, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, have to go to Naboo themselves and do guerrilla warfare with the Gungan army. But in this film...
All the Jedi are here.
In this film, the Geonosians are supposedly related to the Separatists, who allegedly are involved in the assassination attempt on Padme. Still not definitively proven, because anyone could have hired Jango Fett and he could just be going to his next job. We don't know that he's working for them. We don't know that Jango Fett was told by the Separatists to assassinate Padme. They could just be his next client. but they just jump to the fucking conclusion. They bring out all of the fucking Jedi, even though there's so fucking few of them, and they also get a whole Republic army that they've just voted on, which they got under very suspicious circumstances from a fucking Jedi who's been dead for 10 years. This film makes no sense!
Oh, Peter.
It's very fucking
You're just nitpicking.
So there's a lot of Jedi in the scene.
There's so
and
many
it's
fucking Jedi. There's too fucking many Jedi.
It's pretty cool.
Mace
It's
Windu has a purple lightsaber. That's pretty cool.
He's a purple lightsaber, yeah. There's a lot of fighting, a lot of battle droids getting blown up. There's, false shit happening. Fucking Mace Windu cuts Jango's head off after...
Oh, yeah, so Jango Fett and Mace Windu have the second brief encounter where Mace Windu just kind of runs at him and just beheads him in one swing. And it's fucking hilarious how incompetent the Fetts are.
Yep. They have a brief fight, and then the Ronto, I want to say its name is.
Yeah, you got it right. It's Ronto next to the Ackley.
Yeah, it bashes into fucking Jango Fett, and Jango Fett kills it. He shoots it in the face and it dies. At which point he decides,
I'm a god.
I'm a god, so I'm gonna fight Mace Windu. And then Mace Windu runs at him as he shoots ineptly, and Sam L cuts his head off.
In one swing. Like, literally the most, effortless swing as well. Like, there is no weight behind it. He's just like, I just flourished my blade and your head's up.
Yeah, he just waves it into him and, he's dead.
And there's a slight pan to Dooku after he loses his head. Like, he's somewhat distressed a little bit.
Yeah, Christopher Lee wasn't expecting that.
It wasn't in the script. He was surprised. He was just confused as to why there was so many fucking Jedi. He was like, oh.
He was just really surprised they actually killed the actor.
and then he's just completely CGI in Revenge of the Sith when he's playing with the clones. It's really weird. To be fair, there are a huge number of CGI clones in Revenge of the Sith, but we'll get there. Later on, when the fight is kind of died down a little bit from the arena, we also get to see Boba Fett go and mourn his father because he sees his father get beheaded. He picks up the helmet. He picks up the helmet. Is Jango's head still in that helmet?
I gotta assume,
because we see the head come off and roll, and we don't see a head come out of the helmet, and we don't see it fall out when Boba picks up the helmet. So
I want to see a deleted scene where Boba Fett just starts shaking the helmet and his head pops out. He's like, "Oh God!"
Well, it's his helmet now. He needs to get that head out there so he can get his head in there.
Yeah, he's got to get it out.
Although later on in Clone Wars, he blows up his father's. This is a weird thing in the Clone Wars. He blows up his dad's armor, which we all kind of just assumed that his armor was his dad's armor that he repainted. But no, he blows up his dad's armor and then later on gets his own Beskar armor. Weird. The fight spills out across the rest of Geonosis, and Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme give hot pursuit to Count Dooku, who's fleeing. And then they get hit by a laser bolt, and Padme gets knocked off of the knocked out of the spacecraft along with a clone trooper.
Gunship, yeah.
The gunship, and she rolls down the sand, and Anakin's like, "We need to go back for her," and Obi-Wan's like, "No, the fucking mission," and then he's like,
"Step the fuck out of it.
I'm not leaving her," and he's like, "Your duty as a Jedi, blah, 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 blah," and again, pretty good scene.
Obi-Wan is like, "What would she do in this scene?"
Which is a really cool,
she'll do her duty.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good Obi-Wan and Anakin moment. I like that.
Just before this, though, we have the scene winding down in the arena, where the droids have won. There's too many of them. There's a bunch of dead Jedi, and fucking Count Dooku is talking to Mace Windu, and he's like, "You guys have fought well. Good job. If you guys give up, we won't kill you. Everything's fine. Just, you fought and you lost." And Sam L's like, "Fuck off. I'm not surrendering. Jedi ride till they die."
I'm sick of all these motherfucking droids in this motherfucking arena.
And fucking Dooku's like, "Okay, guess you're gonna die then. Sorry." At which point, the clone army finally arrives. You get to see the gunships. You get to see the big spacecraft.
Which looks like a Star
in the
Destroyer.
air. Yeah, it's a Venator Star Destroyer. And it's a pretty cool scene where, the cavalry comes and saves the day.
Mm-hmm. Except for, again, it makes no sense that Yoda doesn't question at all where this clone army comes from.
Nope, he's there with the clones, and he's like, "Go to Kamino, I must. I gotta see these motherfuckers for myself."
He's very
I'm not gonna
at-home.
question them.
He seems very at home giving orders too.
Yeah, so all the Jedi are basically like the commanders in this scene. Fucking Mace Windu and Yoda all calling the shots. The clones are just, going along with it. There's a huge battle scene. 2 massive armies clashing. Lots of CGI effects. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's okay. So then the gunship manages to get to where Dooku's fleeing, which is a hangar. And Obi-Wan and Anakin follow in hot pursuit. And then Obi-Wan's like, we face him together, and Anakin's like, I face him now, and he runs off on his own. And Dooku just fucking force lightnings him. And he just gets instantly downed. It's great.
It's a very gentle force lightning. He just casually gestures, and it's a very soft sound effect with the electricity. It's not like a snap like it was in the original movies.
Maybe he wasn't trying to kill him.
You guys remember Ian McDiarmid in fucking Return of the Jedi? The way he gesticulates with the fucking force lightning is so classic Palpatine. And in this, Christopher Lee just kind of casually, very daintily raises his hand, and just lightning flies out.
Which I like that though. I like that he is a very
graceful.
his whole build as like a lightsaber duelist as well as based on fencing, and so this kind of way of using the Force. He's a Sith. He has a Darth title. He's Darth Tyrannus, I believe. But he doesn't really feel like a Sith in the way that he behaves with lightsaber combat or the Force. He doesn't feel like he's fighting out of anger or even particularly emotional. He still feels like a Jedi in that regard, which is it's a nice little touch. I don't know whether that's intentional with them directing Christopher Lee that way or whether that's just the way Christopher Lee do. But it's
Christopher
nice.
Lee, actual trained fence. So I think they had to
play on his strength essentially.
Well, that, and I think he was actually hurting people during these scenes when they were fighting, because he's an actual trained duelist.
As opposed to in Revenge of the Sith, where they CGI over his head because it's a stunt double the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's really noticeable.
I want to talk about Count Dooku for a sec. He's supposed to be our main antagonist from the title crawl all the way up to here, right?
Yes. He is mentioned in the
more or
title
less.
crawl. He's the only villain mentioned in the title crawl.
But he doesn't really act. I mentioned this to you before, but he doesn't really act very villainous throughout the entire thing. When he's first introduced, like Ben said, he's trying to be persuasive. He's trying to convince Obi-Wan, I'm not the bad guy here. And while they condemn these guys to death, he just sits there, not really eager. It's like, hey, calm down, man. I know you want a shot, but...
And even when Mace Windu confronts him, he's calm and collected.
Yeah. There's also a very early scene where Mace Windu's like, oh, Count Dooku, I mean, he's from the Separatists, yeah, he's the leader of them, but he wouldn't be evil, he's a trained Jedi, he left the Order, but he's a good guy.
Yeah, it was amicable.
Yeah, it was an amicable split. And that just leads to another question, do the Jedi trust people who just leave the Order? Surely you probably left for a reason, right?
Maybe we'll find out when watching Clone Wars Season 7 featuring Ahsoka Tano, ex-Jedi.
Okay, to my point, I like how they tried to make a unique type of villain, not the typical mustache-twirling guy. But at the same time, I felt like it drained the tension away. I wasn't threatened by Dooku at all because he was way too gentle.
I can understand that, and I think
he takes the gloves off in this duel scene, though.
He does. So Anakin's down at this point. So then Obi-Wan faces Dooku, and it's quite a tense fight. But then I think he gets cut in the arm and the leg, but they're both grazing wounds. They're not designed to kill or even maim. They're just disable. Which again is a really nice note of how Dooku is fighting. He's not fighting to kill Obi-Wan. Probably because he respects Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan is, again, Dooku trained Qui-Gon, Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan, so there's that kind of history there that I think maybe makes Dooku decide not to want to kill Obi-Wan, which is nice.
Yeah, and you get the impression that he definitely could have killed him.
Oh, absolutely. But Anakin, so then because he is about to kill Obi-Wan, though, isn't he? Because he does then go to execute him.
Oh, yeah, he is, yeah.
Okay, take back all I said. He's a murdering guy.
That's when he started to act villainous, when he started using those two as shields to get away from Yoda.
Okay, so at this point, Anakin gets back up.
And jumps just in time to block Dooku's attack, and then he grabs Obi-Wan's lightsaber as well, so he's dual-wielding. again, this is cool. We had double-bladed lightsaber in Phantom Menace. We now have someone wielding 2 lightsabers at the same time. This is the first time we've
Does
seen
not
this.
last.
Doesn't last.
This lasts like all of 10 seconds.
But it's
and
still
then,
cool.
Yeah, it's cool for like, the 10 seconds it lasts.
What is not cool is how they shoot this fucking scene. Because at one point, they kind of get into a like darker area of the room. And it
there's so much shadow in the scene.
It just does about 10-15 seconds of just cutting between a close-up of Dooku's face and a close-up of Anakin's face while they're just moving their lightsabers in front of the screen. Here's a tip. If you're doing a fighting scene, don't just do close-ups of their face while their weapons wave in front of the camera.
So lazy.
And it makes me think that they probably didn't know how to choreograph someone fighting with 2 weapons versus someone fighting with 1. But anyways, then he chops off Anakin's arm, and then force pushes him next to Obi-Wan, and then is about to bring down the roof on them when Yoda appears. And what do you think about Yoda versus Dooku?
I kind of wish it was just a force fight. At first, it's just them like kind of telekinetically throwing shit at each other, and then Dooku tries to electrify him, and Yoda like kind of
catches it,
repels it. He tries to turn it against him, which I thought was kind of weird for like a Jedi Master to do. But whatever. I really wish that scene was just like them using the Force against each other. It's so fucking eye-roll, like cringe-inducing when Christopher Lee is like, "It seems our expertise in the Force will not decide this fight. Guess we're gonna have to fight with lightsabers."
It's very gross.
And Yoda goes, "I do the flippity flip," and that's the whole fight. Is him flipping. It's a CGI miniature man flipping around legendary actor Christopher Lee. It's exciting. Yeah. I don't even remember how this fucking fight ends. I think he collapses another thing and Yoda catches it, and then he just gets in his ship and leaves. Honestly, as you said, Ben, they should have had like the little bit of forceness, and then Dooku did that, and then the fight would have ended exactly the same. It to me, it undermines the kind of sageliness of Yoda to have him flip around like a crazy batshit old man.
Oh my god, he's screaming so much. Just screeching constantly.
But yeah, so that's basically the end. Dooku flees to Coruscant, and he speaks with Palpatine / Sidious, and they're like, our plans are continuing. I genuinely don't remember where this scene comes up in the movie, but I do remember vaguely that at some point in the movie they do show Dooku with a miniature hologram of what is the Death Star, but it is done in quite a kind of like it's not a focus of the film or even
it's before.
No, it's not.
It's before.
It's the focus of the scene, but not the focus of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had occurred right before he got on his bike and started running away. He's talking to the Geonosian general, and they show the plan of the Death Star. It's like, I'll take this to my master.
I guess the Geonosians really want to blow up planets.
Here's a question for you. Is it like 3 years between Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones? Is that how long the gap is?
It's like 3 or 5 years, yeah.
And then there's 19 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
So it took them like 22 years, roughly, to make the first
build the Death Star. Yeah.
And it took them like a year to build the second
Death Star.
the second
Death Star. Maybe they just started building it as soon as the first one came out.
Yeah, they actually just had a second one just as a backup.
Just got really good at it.
Yeah, I guess. So Dooku flees Coruscant, and they basically just talk about their plans, and that Palpatine's like, it's all going according to plan. And then you see Mace Windu, Yoda, and I think Obi-Wan's there watching over the clone army as they all like march onto
the Clone Wars have.
Yeah, the Clone Wars. Yeah. And Anakin has a cybernetic arm, and he gets married to Padme. And C-3PO and R2-D2 are there as the witnesses, because I guess they are legal witnesses.
They don't want to take a fight.
Yeah.
I think it erased their memory, so whatever.
And they never wipe R2's memory. It's only C-3PO's that they just constantly fuck his brain up.
C-3PO's got broken brain.
I like how they got married after knowing each other, like for real, for a day or two.
Yeah, not very long at all.
I mean, this is one of the things with these films is you never really know how much time passes in the actual film because hyperspace is the most just inconsistent thing in this franchise.
Yep.
In the Clone Wars, hyperspace seems to be instantaneous. Like, you can be on one side of the galaxy and then instantly be on the other side of the galaxy. But in some scenes in the original trilogy, it seems like journeys take days or weeks in
takes
hyperspace.
a little while.
Because there's downtime when they're on the ship. Yeah, who knows? Attack of the Clones might have lasted, 4 days, or it might have lasted 6 months. Who knows? Who cares?
Who knows?
Let's just forget about this film. The only important things you need to know are the Clone Wars started... Sidious manipulated it all, and Anakin got married to Padme. That's literally, those are the cliff notes that you need to know for this film going into the next one. It's not good.
Not a good movie.
The action's mediocre. The romance is awful.
Cringe-inducing.
Writing's really lazy.
Oh, it's so, there's a lot of good actors in this movie. But
there's not a lot of good performances in this movie.
Not a lot of good performances. I don't know if it was just the direction, or if they were all just phoning it in, or what.
Here's the thing: is that Harrison Ford has famously said that you can write this shit down, but you can't say it about George Lucas's writing. But A New Hope doesn't have amazing performances by any means. They're quite kind of, I guess I would maybe describe them as hammy or just
serviceable.
Yeah. But yeah, it's absolutely fine, and the film is super enjoyable. And in no way are the performances bad. They're just not great either. They're just perfectly fine. This film has some occasional good performances. As I said, I personally think Hayden Christensen is a good actor. Incredibly badly used in this film, and to a lesser extent, Revenge of the Sith.
It's his lines really just it really brings it down. It's you can't say this shit and look like you mean it.
Yeah, and I think somehow in the original trilogy, or less so the original trilogy, and particularly A New Hope, because that was the one directed by George, they managed to find a way, but I also think they're not trying to do a romance plot in that film at all. I feel like this is mostly the writing and the directing in this one. I just don't think there was anything saving the bad stuff in this film. It's
dial.
One good thing I can say about this movie is they had a lot of cool concepts, just not executed well. Just look at the Clone Wars TV show. That spawned from these ideas. They had a lot of things that you could do well with.
Dave Filoni, basically, he's described George Lucas as a tutor to him. And George Lucas had quite a lot of input in the stories for Clone Wars. Not all of it, but the major story arcs. And Ahsoka Tano as a character. So, George Lucas, who created Star Wars, there is no denying that he is a brilliant ideas man. He is not a good writer.
Or a good director.
Or a good director. And I don't mean that as a way to just say, oh, he's shit or anything like that. I just mean the best Star Wars films are the ones where George Lucas was involved, but not the man in charge.
Directing.
And the best Star Wars TV show is the one where George Lucas was involved, but not in charge. That's just, yeah. And depending on your opinion, the worst Star Wars films are either the ones where he was completely in charge or the ones where he was not involved at all. One of the two. But
I think this is definitely the worst film of the entire world.
Somehow, some people will disagree with you on the internet, but yeah, this is the worst film in the entirety of Star Wars, ignoring the holiday special.
It is the second act. It would be the lowest point, but should be for the characters, not the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dial fucking film. The CGI is occasionally interesting and good. It mostly just kind of jags it down, in my opinion. So visually and aesthetically, this movie's not very strong. Plot-wise, it's all over the place. Acting-wise, easily the worst.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking...
Star Wars
sucks. Terrible. Star Wars sucks.
That's my conclusion of Attack of the Clones. That's what I feel like every time I watch Attack of the Clones. Star Wars sucks.
Star Wars sucks.
Fuck it.
Fuck Star Wars. Anyway, that's Attack of the Clones. Don't watch it, or watch it with friends.
Watch it while
drunk.
Getting drunk. Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
This is what I will say. and as I mentioned in the past, I quite like the Disney Star Wars films. I don't love them as much as I love the original trilogy, but I'm fine with most of them. No, I'm fine with all of them. I enjoy most of them. This is the only film out of all 11 main Star Wars films that if I decide I'm going to do a marathon of the Star Wars films like I did in preparation for Rise of Skywalker, I have to mentally prepare myself for this film.
Mm-hmm. It was real hard to get, Phil.
Yeah. But hey,
It's not good.
next episode we'll do Revenge of the Sith, which is
That's a slightly more fun movie.
we'll get to it, but
Still very dumb.
it's
pretty fun.
Yeah. It's better than this one by quite a lot.
It's quite a bit better.
All right.
And I think we're done.
Yeah.
Great. Can I get my sandwich now?
I'll think about it.
What? Fuck you. Give me my sandwich.
Yeah. It's fine. You'll get it.
He's not gonna get it.
Good night, folks.
I think Ben's gonna hire a bounty hunter who's gonna hire another bounty hunter who's gonna use a drone. This film's fucking dumb. I'm done.
Goodbye, folks.